Hello, today we're taking a look at Jupyter notebooks on the Lakeshore HPC inside of Open On Demand. When you log into Open On Demand, under My Interactive Sessions, you will see the link for Jupyter Notebook. When you first click on the app, you are greeted with an explanation of the Jupyter Notebook. There's a link to our knowledge base article that gives information about how to set it up. We provide three different options. You can launch a Conda Jupyter Notebook inside of a Python virtual environment. We'll cover how to configure your virtual environment with your own packages and launch it. You can launch a Conda Jupyter environment inside with Jupyter-AI extension. This version will launch a llama in the background, and it will configure itself with an LLM. Finally, we also support Apptainer containers. Using this option, you can run a pre-built container, or you can build your own container to be run inside of a Jupyter notebook. Starting off, we suggest that you first build a Conda environment, which includes your own packages. To do so from the Lakeshore terminal, launch an interactive job, and then load some implementation of Conda. We suggest using Mamba as this is a C implementation of Anaconda, and it tends to be much, much faster for resolving dependencies, although it may still not be fast enough. We'll see. So first we create a virtual environment. Activate our virtual environment. Now that it's active, we see this prompt before our prompt that shows that we are in our virtual environment. We can then go through and run Mamba install and some package. Let's use NumPy just for an example. And we can see this is going to pull down NumPy and all of the other dependent packages that it needs in order to run, including Python itself. Now NumPy is installed, and we have a functioning Python environment with NumPy. If we want to use this virtual environment inside of inside of Jupyter, we first need to install another package called ipykernel. And we will run Python-m ipykernel to register our virtual environment as a Jupyter Notebook kernel. So we see that it's got an installed kernel spec, and we are ready to go. We can launch Conda Jupyter environment. We can pick our account, pick our partition. In this case, we're going to run on batch, one CPU, one core, 1 hour. Launch it. And our Jupyter notebook is ready to connect to. Once we're connected, we now see Python Jupyter EMV listed here. If we click it, we can start to type our Python code and work within the virtual environment that we set up with whatever packages we've installed there. Building on this, we can run the same virtual environment inside of Conda Jupyter-AI. In this case, however, we are going to pick a different partition. You're certainly welcome to run Jupyter-AI on a CPU node, however, your experience may vary. It'll be incredibly slow on a CPU, so we do suggest using a GPU anytime you possibly can. Once you select a GPU node, you now have an option down at the bottom to select a GPU type. Here we see we have A100 GPUs with varying MIG profiles. In this case, let's run on a small GPU with 10 gigs of RAM. By default, we have Jupyter-AI configured to auto-configure itself. It will activate the Jupyter-AI extension, and it will pre-configure itself. If we run on a CPU, it will load quincoder 0.5B, 10 gigs will run with 7B, 20 gigs it will use 14B, and if we're using a 40 gig GPU, it will load 32B. So out of the box, Jupyter-AI is configured and ready to use without any other configuration. You are welcome to change your settings over here in the side panel. If we click, we can check our settings and we can see that Jupyter-AI is configured with the 7B partition, with the 7B LLM. From here, now we can come down and we can ask questions. Give me a Python function that adds two numbers. If we click enter, it will generate a response and will print out our definition. We could use /generate and say /generate a notebook that performs some function, and it will build an entire Jupyter notebook and it will drop it into your home directory. In addition, there are magic commands which can be used within the notebook directly. So if we type --AI and then give it the model that we're working with, in this case it is Ollama, we ask it a question. Oops. This will generate code directly in our Jupyter Notebook cell. This is not at all exhaustive with Jupyter-AI, but it is a brief look to get you up and going. In addition, our virtual environment, Jupyter VE, will not work with the magic commands that we showed. These commands will not work out of the box. If we want to make those work in your virtual environment, there are some additional packages that need to be installed. So for that, we're going to install them from pip. And we are going to install Jupyter-AI, LangChain Ollama, so that we can have support for Ollama as our provider, and Jupyter-AI Magics. This allows us to work with the magic commands inside of our environment. Now that our package is installed, we can go back to Jupyter Notebook, launch with our virtual environment in Jupyter-AI, and use the magic commands. Finally, another option that we provide within a Jupyter Notebook is an Apptainer container. Once we have this selected, we can see there are some other options that are presented. We still have our account. We're going to pick a partition. In this case, let's go back to our CPU only partition, our other options. But down here at the bottom, we now see that we have an Apptainer container option. So in this case, we have it pre-populated with a very basic container called base. This contains a very basic Jupyter notebook without a whole lot of packages. In this path, we also provide the definition file for it. So from here is an example of how this can be set up. It bootstraps a Docker Micro container, and then it runs an update, it runs an installation, it installs NumPy, and it installs Jupyter. What this looks like in practice, if we click enter, it will queue and start up. In addition, we also provide a container called Gen-AI, which contains a kitchen sink of various Gen-AI software, such as Hugging Face and Ollama packages. So you can take a look at that as a more complex example. Once we've launched our Jupyter Notebook, we can then take a look around, and if we take a look in the terminal, we can see an Apptainer prompt, and we can see that we are actually running inside of our container. Otherwise, it will function very similarly to our other Conda environments. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We are happy to assist you. If you need help setting up a container or a virtual environment, or have any other questions about how Jupyter is configured on Lakeshore. Thank you.